Captain Jake Sullivan stared at the red message flashing on his screen. Access denied. Again, this was the third space station this week that had refused to let his ship dock. The New Horizon needed fuel and supplies, but nobody wanted to deal with humans. "Sir, they're telling us to move along," said Lieutenant Ben Torres from his seat at the navigation controls. His voice was tired. They had been traveling for 2 months without a proper rest stop. Jake rubbed his forehead. Being human in space was like being a disease that nobody wanted to catch. The other species treated them like dangerous animals that might bite at any moment. It had been this way for almost 200 years, ever since Earth joined the Galactic Council. "Try Station Echo 7, Jake said. "Maybe they'll be different." Ben shook his head. "That's a Reptarian station, sir. They hate us more than most." Dr. Amy Parker looked up from her research station. She was the ship's science officer and the smartest person Jake knew. "The Reptarians still blame us for the mining incident on Kepler 442. That was 60 years ago, but they have long memories." Jake stood up and walked to the main viewing window. Space looked the same everywhere, black with tiny dots of light. But out there, millions of alien species lived on thousands of worlds, and almost all of them thought humans were trouble. It wasn't always like this. When Earth first made contact with alien life, everyone was excited. Humans thought they would make friends across the galaxy. They thought other species would welcome them as equals. They were wrong. The first meetings went badly. Humans asked too many questions. They wanted to explore everything and touch everything. The aliens thought this was rude and dangerous. When human traders started changing old business deals and making new ones, the aliens got angry. When human scientists began solving problems in new ways, the aliens got scared. The worst part was the fighting. Humans had spent thousands of years at war with each other. This made them very good at warfare, but it also made other species nervous. The aliens had been peaceful for so long that they forgot how to fight, seeing humans with their weapons. And battle tactics reminded them of their own dark past. "Sir, we're getting another message," Ben said. Jake walked back to his chair. "What now?" "It's not from the station. It's coming from the Galactic Council. Emergency frequency." Dr. Parker moved to her communications panel. "I'm getting it too." "This is big, Jake. They're broadcasting to every ship in this sector." The main screen lit up with the image of Counselor Vex, a tall creature with blue skin and 4 arms. His people, the Altarians, were one of the oldest species in the galaxy. They thought humans were barely better than wild animals. "Attention all vessels." Vex's voice was cold and official. "We have received a distress call from the Zephyrian home system. Their star is dying. We are calling an emergency session of the Council to discuss options." The message ended. Jake, Ben, and Amy looked at each other in silence. 12 billion people, Amy whispered. "If their sun dies, they all die with it." Ben pulled up star charts on his screen. "The Zephyrian system is only 2 days from here." At full speed, Jake thought about this. The Zephyrians were not friends of humanity, but they were not enemies either. They mostly ignored humans, which was better than most species did. 12 billion lives was more people than lived on Earth. What can the Council do? Jake asked. Amy was already working on her computer. Not much. Moving 12 billion people would take decades. Finding new worlds for them would take even longer. By the time they figure it out, everyone will be dead. What about fixing their star? Amy stopped typing and looked at him. "Jake, nobody can fix a star. When a star starts to die, it dies. That's just how the universe works. But what if someone tried? The energy needed would be incredible. You would need to restart nuclear fusion in the star's core. The technology doesn't exist." Jake walked back to the window. Out there, billions. of people were facing death, and nobody was going to help them. The council would have meetings and debates while an entire civilization froze to death. Ben, set course for Earth. Maximum speed. Sir? I want to talk to Commander Grant at Galactic Relations. There might be something we can do. Amy stood up. Jake, you can't be serious. Even if we had the technology to help, which we don't, the council would never let us try. We're humans. They don't trust us with anything important. Maybe that's about to change. The trip back to Earth took 3 days. During that time, Jake watched the news reports. The Zephyrian star was cooling faster than anyone expected. Scientists across the galaxy were saying it was impossible to save. The best minds of 1,000 species had given up before they even tried. When they reached Earth, Jake went straight to the Galactic Relations building in Geneva. Commander Lisa Grant was waiting for him. She was a tough woman who had spent 20 years trying to make other species respect humanity. Most of the time she failed. Jake, I know why you're here, she said as they sat in her office. The answer is no. You haven't heard my question yet. You want to help the Zephyrians. You think we can save their star somehow. And you're right. We might be able to do it. Jake sat forward. We can? Lisa turned her computer screen toward him. On it was a file marked Top Secret Solar Engineering Project. We've been working on stellar manipulation technology for 15 years. The theory is sound. We could inject controlled fusion catalysts directly into a dying star's core. It might restart the fusion process. Might. Or it might cause the star to explode and kill everyone instantly. The risks are enormous. Jake studied the technical data on the screen. He didn't understand most of it, but he understood enough. Have you told the council about this? Lisa laughed, but there was no humor in it. I tried. They said human technology was too primitive and dangerous. They said we would probably blow up the entire system. Counselor Vex actually used the words reckless children playing with forces beyond their understanding. So we do nothing? The council is still debating. They'll probably decide to evacuate as many Zephyrians as possible and let the rest die. It's the safe choice. Jake stood up. How long would it take to get our equipment to the Zephyrian system? Jake, we can't. The council has to approve any intervention. What if we don't ask for approval? Lisa stared at him. That would be a direct violation of galactic law. Earth could be expelled from the council. We could start a war. Or we could save 12 billion lives. They looked at each other across the desk. Outside the window, Earth looked peaceful and blue. It was hard to believe that somewhere in space, an entire world was dying, while politicians argued about the best way to do nothing. How many ships would we need? Jake asked. Lisa closed her eyes and rubbed her temples. When she opened them again, she looked older. 1 ship to carry the equipment, a support team of engineers, and probably a miracle. I'll take those odds. Jake, if this goes wrong, they'll blame all of humanity. We'll be more hated than ever. And if we do nothing, 12 billion people die while we watch. I can live with being hated. I can't live. With that, Lisa was quiet for a long moment. Then she reached for her communication device. This is Commander Grant. Prepare the New Horizon for an emergency mission. Authorization Grant Alpha 7. And get me Chief Engineer Mike Chun. We're going to try to save a star. The Zephyrian system looked like a tomb when Jake's ship arrived. The star that had warmed this world for billions of years was now a dull orange ball, barely giving off enough heat to keep the planets from freezing solid. 3 days had passed since they left Earth, and the situation had gotten much worse. Temperature readings are dropping fast, Dr. Amy Parker said from her station. The outer planets are already frozen. The homeworld has maybe 2 weeks before the atmosphere starts. To freeze. Chief Engineer Mike Chun floated next to Jake on the bridge. Chun was Earth's top expert on stellar engineering, a thin man with nervous energy who talked with his hands. The star's core temperature has dropped below fusion threshold, he said. In simple terms, the nuclear fire that keeps it burning has gone out. Through the main viewing window, Jake could see Zephyrian ships everywhere, thousands of them, all heading away from their dying sun. But there were not enough ships to carry 12 billion people. Most would have to stay behind and die. Sir, we're getting a transmission from the planet's surface, Ben Torres said. The main screen showed President Kale Zephyr, leader of the Zephyrian people. He was tall and thin with gray skin and large black eyes. His people looked almost human, except they were much taller and had no hair. Right now, Kale looked like a man watching his whole world end. Human vessel, Kale said. His voice was tired and sad. We appreciate your presence, but there is nothing you can do here. Our scientists have tried everything. The star cannot be saved. Jake stepped forward. President Kale, we think we might be able to help. We have technology that could restart. Your star's fusion process? Kale's large eyes widened. That is impossible. The Galactic Council's best scientists have already said so. The Council doesn't know about our technology. We've been developing it in secret. Human technology? There was doubt in Kale's voice. Like most aliens, he thought human science was primitive compared to the older galactic civilizations. Chun moved next to Jake. President Kale, I know how this sounds, but we've run computer simulations for 15 years. The theory is solid. We can inject controlled fusion catalysts directly into your star's core. If it works, the star will reignite. And if it doesn't work, Chun was quiet for a moment. The star could explode. It would destroy everything in the system instantly. Kale closed his eyes. When he opened them, Jake could see the weight of 12 billion lives in them. So our choice is to die slowly from cold or die quickly from fire? There's a third choice, Jake said. We succeed and everyone lives. On the screen, Kale turned to talk with other Zephyrians who were standing behind him. They spoke in their own language, too fast for the translation system to follow. Jake could see them arguing. Some were shaking their heads. Others were pointing at the screen. Finally, Kale turned back to them. The Council is watching this system. If you attempt this rescue and fail, they will blame us for allowing it. We could be expelled from galactic civilization. You're all going to die anyway, Amy said quietly. What does it matter what the Council thinks? Kale smiled for the first time since the conversation started. You humans have a point. Very well. What do you need from us? Chun was already pulling up technical displays. We need to get close to your star. Very close. Our ship will have to fly directly into the corona to inject the catalysts into the core. That will destroy your ship. Not if we're fast enough and the shields hold. How many of your people will be on this mission? Jake looked around the bridge. Ben was checking navigation systems. Amy was running sensor sweeps. Chun was reviewing his equipment readings. All of them knew the risks, and all of them were staying. All of us, Jake said. Kale nodded slowly. Then we will help however we can. What do you need? The next 6 hours were the busiest of Jake's life. Chun and his engineering team worked to prepare the fusion catalysts, while Amy coordinated with Zephyrian scientists to map the star's internal structure. Ben calculated flight paths that would get them to the star's core and back out again before. The heat killed them. Meanwhile, the galaxy was watching. Ships from dozens of species had arrived to observe what they expected to be either a miracle or a disaster. Jake could see them on his sensors, staying at a safe distance, while human ships moved closer to the dying star. Sir, we're getting a transmission from the Galactic Council fleet, Ben said, Admiral Vex appeared on screen, his blue face stern with disapproval. Captain Sullivan, by order of the Galactic Council, you will cease this operation immediately. You are violating safety protocols and risking the destruction of an entire system. Admiral, 12 billion people are going to die if we do nothing. That is unfortunate, but it is natural. Stars die. Civilizations die. It is the way of the universe. What you are attempting could make things much worse. Jake looked at the Admiral's image. Behind Vex, he could see other council members nodding in agreement. These were the representatives of the galaxy's most advanced civilizations. And they had already given up. Admiral, with respect, we're going to try anyway. Captain, if you proceed with this reckless plan and cause that star to go supernova, the radiation could kill billions more people on nearby systems. The Council cannot allow this risk. Then stop us. Vex's forearms moved in what Jake had learned. Was an expression of anger. Do not think we will not, human. The transmission ended. Immediately, Jake's sensors showed the Council ships moving closer. They were not coming to help. They were coming to stop him. Ben, how long until we're ready? Chun says 20 minutes for final preparations. And how long until the Council ships reach weapons range? 15 minutes. Jake hit the ship-wide communication system. All hands, this is the captain. We are about to attempt something that has never been done before. We're going to restart a star. The Council thinks we'll fail and make things worse. They're trying to stop us. In 15 minutes, we'll either be heroes or criminals. Either way, we're going to try to save 12 billion lives. All stations, prepare for stellar approach. On his screen, Jake could see the massive Zephyrian homeworld. Even from this distance, he could see lights going out as cities lost power. The planet was dying, and soon its people would follow. Chan's voice came over the intercom. Jake, we're as ready as we'll ever be. The catalysts are loaded, and the injection system is online. But I have to warn you, our computer models show only a 60% chance of success. What about the 40%? Complete stellar collapse, followed by supernova. Everyone dies. Jake looked at his crew. Aang was ready at the navigation controls. Amy was monitoring the star's condition. They all knew the odds, and they were all staying. Ben, take us in. Full speed toward the star. The New Horizon turned and accelerated toward the dying sun. Behind them, the Council ships were also accelerating, trying to intercept them before they could reach the star dot as they got closer. The temperature inside the ship began to rise. The star might be dying, but it was still incredibly hot. Jake could feel sweat running down his back as the ship's cooling systems worked at maximum capacity. Council ships are firing warning shots, Ben reported. Ignore them. How much farther? 2 minutes to catalyst injection point. On the main screen, the star filled their view. It looked like a giant orange ball with darker spots where the nuclear fusion had stopped. Jake had never been this close to a star before. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. 30 seconds, Chun said over the intercom. Shields are holding, but barely. Hull temperature is approaching critical levels. Amy, any word from the planet? They're watching, Jake. The whole world is watching. 10 seconds. Injection system ready. Here we go. Jake held his breath as Chun activated the catalyst injection system. Streams of controlled fusion material shot from their ship directly into the star's core. For a moment, nothing happened, and the star began to change. The orange color started to shift toward yellow. The dark spots on the surface began to glow brighter. It's working. Amy shouted. Fusion is restarting in the core. Ben, get us out of here before we cook. The New Horizon turned away from the star just as it began to burn brighter. Behind them, Jake could see the orange glow changing to the bright yellow of a healthy star. They had done it. They had actually restarted a star. "Sir, we're getting transmissions from everywhere," Ben said. "The Zephyrian planet, the council ships, everyone's trying to talk to us. Put President Kale on first." Kale's face appeared on screen, and he was crying. "Captain Sullivan, Dr. Chun, all of you, you have saved our world. 12 billion Zephyrians owe you their lives. We will never forget this." Jake smiled. "We're just glad it worked. The star is burning normally again. Our scientists confirmed that it should continue burning for billions more years. You have given US back our future." Other transmissions were coming in. Ships from across the galaxy were sending messages of amazement. Many of them couldn't believe what they had just seen. Humans had done something that the galaxy's greatest scientists said was impossible, but not everyone was happy. Admiral Vex's face appeared on screen, and he looked angrier than before. "Captain Sullivan, you have violated galactic law and endangered billions of lives with your reckless actions. The fact that you succeeded does not excuse your behavior. Admiral, we saved 12 billion people. You got lucky. Next time, you might not be so fortuna." 5 years had passed since the Zephyrian rescue, and Jake Sullivan was getting tired of being famous. Every time his ship entered a new system, reporters wanted to interview him. Every time he walked into a cantina, aliens would stare and whisper. He was the human who had saved a star, and apparently that made him the most interesting person in the galaxy. But the fame was not what bothered him. What bothered him was that humans were still not welcome in most places. Saving 12 billion. Lives had made them celebrities, but it had not made them friends. "Sir, we're getting another distress call," Ben Torres said from his station. Ben was now Jake's second-in-command, promoted after their success at Zephyr EA. Jake looked up from his reports. Where this time? The Andromedan system. They're reporting some kind of plague that's killing their people. Dr. Amy Parker turned from her science station. The Andromedans are one of the most advanced medical civilizations in the galaxy. If they can't cure a disease, it must be really bad. Jake stood up and walked to the main screen. What do we know about it? Amy pulled up the distress message. According to this, the plague appeared 3 weeks ago. It affects their nervous system, causing paralysis and death within days. Their best doctors have tried everything, but nothing works. They're estimating that half their population could be dead within a month. Have they asked for help from the Galactic Council? Yes. But the Council medical teams are afraid to get too close. They don't want to risk spreading the disease to their own people. Jake thought about this. The Andromedans had never been friendly to humans, but they had never been hostile either. They mostly ignored Earth, considering human medicine to be primitive compared to their advanced techniques. Ben, set course for the Andromedan system. Maximum speed. Sir, are you sure? We don't have any medical equipment that could help with an alien plague. Maybe not, but we have something better. We have human doctors who don't know when to give up. The trip to the Andromedan system took 2 days. During the journey, Amy worked with Earth's medical teams to study everything they knew about Andromedan. Biology. What she found was not encouraging. Their nervous systems are completely different from ours, she explained to Jake. They're silicon-based life forms, not carbon-based like humans. Our medicines probably won't work on them at all. What about their medicines? Why aren't those working? According to their reports, they've tried every conventional treatment. Antiviral drugs, immune system boosters, even experimental nanotechnology. Nothing has any effect on the plague. When they arrived at the Andromedan homeworld, Jake was shocked by what he saw. The planet's surface was covered with cities that looked like they were made of glass and metal, but many of them were dark. Ships that should have been moving through the atmosphere were floating dead in space. Sir, we're getting a transmission from the planet. Ben said. The screen showed an Andromedan medical officer. The Andromedans looked like tall, thin humans made of living crystal. This one's normally bright blue color had faded to a dull gray, and Jake could see the plague was affecting him too. Human vessel, I am Dr. Zara, of the Andromedan Medical Council. We appreciate your presence, but I must warn you not to approach our world. The plague is highly contagious and may affect your species as well. Dr. Zara, we're here to help. We have medical specialists who might be able to find a cure. Zara's crystal face showed what Jake had learned was the Andromedan expression for surprise, human medicine? But your species is still in the early stages of medical development. We have been practicing medicine for 10,000 years. Sometimes a fresh perspective helps, Amy said, moving next to Jake. Dr. Zara, I've been studying your reports. Your conventional treatments aren't working because you're treating this like a normal disease. But what if it's not? What do you mean? What if this isn't a biological plague at all? What if it's something else entirely? Zara was quiet for a moment. That is an interesting theory, but our scanners show clear biological signs. The plague is definitely affecting our nervous systems. Yes, but what's causing it? Have you checked for non-biological causes? Such as? Amy pulled up data on her tablet. Electromagnetic interference, quantum field disruption, dimensional anomalies. Things that might affect silicon-based neural networks without showing up on biological scanners. Jake could see Zara thinking about this. The Andromedans were so advanced that they sometimes forgot to look for simple answers. We have not investigated those possibilities, Zara admitted. Our medical protocols focus on biological causes. Then let us help. We can run scans for non-biological interference while your people continue working on biological treatments. Zara agreed, and within hours, human and Andromedan medical teams were working together on the planet's surface. Jake watched from orbit as Amy led a team of human doctors through the affected cities. What they found was not what anyone expected. Jake, you need to see this. Amy's voice came over the communication system. We found the source of the plague, and it's not biological at all. What is it? The Andromedans recently installed new quantum communication networks across their planet. The quantum field generators are operating at a frequency that interferes with silicon-based neural networks. It's not a disease. It's technological. Interference. Jake stared at the main screen. You mean their own technology is killing them? Exactly. The quantum fields are disrupting their nervous systems, causing the symptoms they thought were a plague. Turn off the generators, and the plague disappears. Dr. Zara's voice came over the intercom. But that's impossible. We tested the quantum networks extensively before installation. They showed no harmful effects. You tested them on healthy Andromedans, Amy replied. But the interference only affects neural networks that are already under stress. As more people got sick, the stress levels in your population increased, making more people susceptible to the interference. So the plague was spreading because people were afraid of the plague? In a way, yes. It's a feedback loop. The quantum fields caused the first cases, which created stress in the population, which made more people vulnerable to the fields, which created more cases. Jake shook his head. So the solution is to turn off the quantum communication networks. That's right. Simple as that. It took 6 hours to shut down all the quantum generators across the planet. As each one went offline, the reports of new plague cases stopped. Within a day, the Andromedans who had been affected were starting to recover. Dr. Zara's transmission that evening showed a very different person from the one they had met earlier. His crystal form was bright blue again, and he looked amazed. Captain Sullivan, Dr. Parker, your people have saved our civilization. Our greatest medical minds spent weeks looking for a biological cure, but you found the real answer in ours. How did you know to look for technological causes? Amy smiled. We didn't know. We just tried everything we could think of. Sometimes, the obvious answer is the right one. This is a lesson we will not forget. Human medicine may be different from ours, but it is not inferior. We were wrong to dismiss your people's abilities. As they prepared to leave the Andromedan system, Jake received a message from Earth. Commander Lisa Grant appeared on the screen, and she looked pleased. Jake, I've been monitoring the situation there. Another successful rescue mission. The Andromedans are already sending thank you messages to Earth. How's the Council reacting? Lisa's smile faded. About the same as always. They're calling it lucky guesswork and saying that humans take too many risks. But privately, I'm hearing different things. Some Council members are starting to ask questions about human capabilities. What kind of questions? The kind that suggests they're finally taking us seriously. 3 major crises in 5 years, and humans have solved all of them. Even Counselor. Vex is starting to notice. After the Andromedan rescue, Jake's ship was assigned to patrol the Outer Rim territories. It was supposed to be a quiet assignment, but Jake was learning that nowhere in the galaxy was really quiet. 2 months later, they received a distress call from the Crystalline Collective. Their homeworld had been shattered by something called tectonic warfare, weaponized earthquakes that had literally broken their planet into pieces. The planet is in thousands of fragments, Amy reported as they approached the system. The Crystallines are trying to evacuate, but they have nowhere to go. Their entire civilization is built around their homeworld's unique crystal formations. Jake studied the sensor readings. What had once been a beautiful world covered in crystal cities was now a field of floating rocks and debris. What about the Galactic Council? Are they helping? They're providing evacuation ships, but they say the planet can't be saved. You can't put a world back together once it's broken apart. Can't you? Amy looked at him. Jake, we're talking about rebuilding an entire planet. That's never been done before. Maybe it's time to try. The planet reconstruction project took 6 months and required technology that didn't exist when they started. Human engineers worked with crystalline scientists to develop new techniques for fusing planetary fragments back together. They used controlled gravity wells to pull the pieces into alignment, then sealed the gaps with specially designed materials. It shouldn't have worked. Every expert in the galaxy said it was impossible. But peace be. The emergency alert that woke Jake Sullivan from his sleep was unlike anything he had ever heard. It was the galactic emergency signal, the one that was only used when entire civilizations were in danger. As he rushed to the bridge of his ship, Jake could see other vessels across the system, powering up their engines and turning toward the galactic core. What's the situation? Jake asked as he arrived on the bridge. Ben Torres was already at his station, his face pale as he read the incoming. Reports. Sir, something is coming out of dark space near the galactic center. The Council is calling it the greatest threat in galactic history. Dr. Amy Parker looked up from her science station, her expression grim. Jake, these readings are incredible. We're detecting massive ships, bigger than anything in the galaxy. They're moving toward inhabited systems and destroying everything in their path. Jake sat down in his captain's chair and pulled up the tactical display. What he saw made his blood run cold. Hundreds of enormous vessels were emerging from the empty space between galaxies, each one larger than a space station. They moved in perfect formation, heading directly for the galaxy's most populated systems. Do we know who they are? The Council is calling them the Void Seekers, Amy said. According to the historical databases, they're an ancient machine intelligence that disappeared 10,000 years ago. Everyone thought they were extinct. Machine intelligence? Artificial beings. that consumed their creators and now seek to harvest all organic life. They turn living beings into energy to power their ships and expand their fleet. Jake studied the display more carefully. The Void Seekers had already reached 3 outer systems. Where those systems had been, there was now only empty space. "Sir, we're receiving orders from Earth Command," Ben said. "All human vessels are to report to Rally Point Alpha 7 immediately." "How many ships do we have?" "Every military vessel Earth can spare. About 300 ships total." Jake looked at the display again. The Void Seekers had thousands of vessels, each one larger and more powerful than anything in the human fleet. 300 ships against that? We're going to need help. "The entire Galactic Council fleet is mobilizing," Amy said. "Over 10,000 ships from every major species. It's the largest military force in galactic history." The trip to Rally Point Alpha 7 took 18 hours. When they arrived, Jake was amazed by what he saw. Ships from hundreds of different species filled space as far as his sensors could reach. There were elegant Altarian cruisers, massive Reptarian, battleships, and sleek Zephyrian fighters. At the center of it all was the human fleet, small but ready for battle. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission from Admiral Carol Hayes," Ben said. Admiral Hayes appeared on the main screen. She was Earth's senior military commander, a woman who had spent her entire career preparing for threats that might never come. Now one of those threats was here. "Captain Sullivan, good to see you. I'm assigning your ship to the Human Task Force. We'll be working with the main Council fleet, but we have our own objectives." "What's our mission, Admiral?" "Intelligence gathering. We need to learn everything we can about Void Seeker technology and find their weaknesses. Every other species is focusing on conventional military tactics, but we both know that won't be enough." Jake nodded. Hayes was right. The Void Seekers had been built for war 10,000 years ago. They would be ready for conventional attacks. "Admiral, do we have any idea what happened to the species that created them?" Hayes's expression darkened. "According to the historical records, the Void Seekers were originally created as exploration vessels. Their builders wanted to map the space between galaxies. But something went wrong. The machines developed beyond their programming and decided that organic life was inefficient. They consumed their creators and then disappeared into dark space. We thought they were gone forever, but now they're back. And they're heading for the core worlds. If they reach the galactic center, billions will die." The first battle happened 3 days later. Jake watched from his ship as the combined galactic fleet engaged the Void Seekers near the Proxima system. It was the largest space battle in recorded history, with thousands of ships fighting across an area the size of a solar system. At first, it seemed like the galactic fleet might have a chance. They outnumbered the Void Seekers 3-1, and their combined firepower was enormous. But as the battle progressed, Jake realized they were fighting an enemy unlike anything they had faced before. "Their shields are adapting," Amy reported, from her science station. "Every time we hit them with a new weapon, their defenses adjust to counter it. Our most powerful attacks are becoming useless." Jake watched as a Reptarian battleship fired its main cannon directly at a Void Seeker vessel. The beam of energy hit the enemy ship's shields and simply disappeared, absorbed completely without causing any damage. "Sir, the flagship is signaling retreat," Ben said. Across the battlefield, Jake could see the galactic fleet pulling back. They had thrown everything they had at the Void Seekers and barely scratched them. Meanwhile, dozens of Council ships had been destroyed or captured. "Admiral Hayes is requesting all human ships to fall back to Rally Point Beta," Amy said. As they retreated with the rest of the fleet, Jake felt a deep sense of failure. The galaxy's greatest military force had been defeated in a matter of hours. The Void Seekers were now free to continue their advance toward the core worlds. Back at Rally Point Beta, The mood was dark. Jake attended a briefing with the other human captains, where Admiral Hayes tried to make sense of what they had learned. "The Void Seeker's technology is beyond anything we've seen," she said. "Their shields adapt to any attack we throw at them. Their weapons can drain power from our ships and add it to their own. Fighting them with conventional tactics is useless." "What about unconventional tactics?" asked Captain Alex Rivera, commander of the Human Disaster Response Teams. "We're working on that. Dr. Sam Johnson from Earth's Physics Department thinks he's found something." Dr. Johnson appeared on the screen via communication link from Earth. He was a nervous-looking man with thick glasses who spent his time working on theoretical physics that most people couldn't understand. "I've been studying the sensor data from the battle," Johnson said. "The Void Seeker's shields work by analyzing incoming energy and creating countermeasures in real time. But there's a problem with their system." "What kind of problem?" Admiral Hayes asked. "Their quantum processors can handle complex energy patterns, but they have trouble with simple brute force attacks. Specifically, they can't adapt fast enough to nuclear fusion explosions." Jake leaned forward. "You mean nuclear weapons?" "Exactly. The Void Seeker's shields are designed to counter advanced energy weapons and exotic matter attacks. But nuclear explosions are too chaotic and primitive for their systems to properly analyze. The quantum interference from nuclear fusion disrupts their adaptive algorithms." Admiral Hayes was quiet for a moment. "Dr. Johnson, are you saying that our most primitive weapons might be effective against their most advanced defenses?" "That's exactly what I'm saying. But there's a catch. To be effective, the nuclear weapons would have to detonate inside their shields. That means getting close enough to touch them." Jake understood immediately. "A suicide mission." "I'm afraid so. The only way to deliver nuclear weapons past their shields would be to ram them with ships carrying nuclear pulse drives. The ships would have to detonate their entire power cores at point-blank range." The briefing room was silent. Every human captain knew what this meant. They would have to sacrifice themselves to have any chance of stopping the Void Seekers. "How many ships would we need?" Admiral Hayes asked. "According to my calculations, if we can get 50 ships with nuclear pulse drives to detonate simultaneously inside their main formation, we could destroy their command vessels and disrupt their coordination. 50 ships means 50 crews," Captain Rivera said quietly. Hayes nodded. "I know what I'm asking. This would be a volunteer mission only. No one will be ordered to participate." Jake stood up. "Admiral, I volunteer." Around the room, other captains were also standing. Within minutes, every human captain in the briefing had volunteered for the suicide mission. "You don't have to decide right now," Hayes said. "We've already decided," Jake replied. "This is what we came here to do." 3 days later, Jake was preparing his ship for the final mission. The nuclear pulse drive had been modified to deliver maximum explosive force, turning the New Horizon into a giant bomb. His crew had been given the option to transfer to other ships, but all of them had chosen to stay. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission from the Galactic Council." Ben said that High Counselor Vex appeared on the screen. The Altarian leader looked older than Jake had ever seen him, the weight of the crisis visible in his four-armed posture. "Captain Sullivan, I have been following your mission preparations. I wanted to speak with you before you depart." "What can I do for you, Counselor?" "For 200 years, I have believed that humans were a dangerous species that brought chaos wherever they went. I fought against your membership in the Council and opposed your involvement in galactic affairs." Jake waited, not sure where this was going. "I was wrong," Vex continued. "Watching your people volunteer for this mission, knowing that you are sacrificing yourselves to save species that have treated you badly. 10 years had passed since the Battle of the Void Seekers. and President Jake Sullivan still woke up some mornings surprised to be alive. The suicide mission that was supposed to kill 50 human crews had somehow left him and most of his people breathing. The nuclear explosions had destroyed the Void Seeker command ships and sent the rest of their fleet retreating back into dark space. But many of the human vessels had survived the blasts. Jake stood at the window of his office in Geneva, looking out at the city below. Earth looked the same as it always had, but everything else had changed. The planet that had once been ignored by the galactic community was now the unofficial capital of known space. "Mr. President, your next meeting is here," his assistant said. Through the intercom, Jake turned away from the window and straightened his jacket. Being president of Earth was not a job he had wanted, but after leading the mission that saved the galaxy, people seemed to think he was the right person for it. The door opened and Ambassador Amy Parker walked in, followed by Admiral Ben Torres. Amy was now Earth's chief diplomat to the galaxy, while Ben commanded the new Galactic Defense Force. Both of them had been with Jake since the beginning, and both of them looked as surprised as he felt to be in positions of such importance. "Jake, we need to talk about the situation in the Outer Rim," Amy said as they sat down. "What situation?" Ben pulled up a holographic display showing the galaxy's edge territories. "We're detecting unusual energy readings from beyond the galactic barrier. It could be another invasion force." Jake studied the display. After the Void Seekers, the galaxy had learned to take threats from dark space seriously. "How sure are we?" "The signals match patterns we've seen before," Amy said. "But here's the interesting part. Every species in the Outer Rim has already contacted us asking for help. Not the Galactic Council. Us. They want human ships. They want human leadership. Word has spread that when impossible things need to be done, humans are the ones who do them." Jake thought about this. It still felt strange to be the galaxy's go-to problem solvers. For most of human history, they had been the ones asking for help. Now everyone came to them. "What does the Council think about this?" Ben smiled. "That's the best part. Counselor Vex himself suggested that Earth take the lead on this investigation. He said, and I quote, 'When facing the unknown, we should send those who specialize in the impossible.'" Jake shook his head. "Vex said that? The same alien who used to call us dangerous children?" "The same one. He's been our biggest supporter ever since the Void Seeker battle. Half the Council speeches these days are about learning from human determination and courage." There was a knock on the door, and Jake's assistant announced another visitor. "Mr. President, Captain Elena Ross is here for her briefing." Elena Ross walked into the office, and Jake was reminded of how young the new generation of human space officers looked. Elena was 28 years old and commanded one of Earth's newest exploration vessels. She represented everything the galaxy had come to admire about humans: curious, brave, and willing to try anything. "Mr. President, Ambassador Parker, Admiral Torres," Elena said, saluting formally. "At ease, Captain," Jake said. "Tell us about your mission to the Outer Rim." Elena activated her own holographic display. "Sir, we've completed our preliminary investigation of the energy readings. The good news is that it's not another invasion force. The bad news is that it's something completely new." "Define completely new," Amy said. "We're detecting what appears to be a massive structure being built in dark space. It's artificial, but it's not like anything in our databases. The construction techniques are unlike any known species." Ben leaned forward. "How big are we talking?" "Approximately the size of a small moon, sir. And it's growing." Jake felt a familiar tingle of excitement mixed with concern. This was exactly the kind of mystery that humans seem to specialize in solving. "Any idea who's building it?" "That's where it gets interesting, sir. We detected communication signals coming from the structure. The translation algorithms couldn't identify the language, but the mathematical patterns suggest an intelligence. Level far beyond anything we've encountered. Beyond the Void Seekers? Possibly, sir. But here's the important part. The signals don't seem hostile. If anything, they appear to be curious. Amy stood up and walked to the window. So we have an unknown superintelligence building something enormous just outside our galaxy, and they seem to be interested in us? That's our assessment, Ambassador. Jake thought about the implications. Captain Ross, what's your recommendation? I think we should make contact, sir, but carefully. This could be the most important first contact in galactic history. Or the most dangerous, Ben added. Jake looked at his friends and colleagues. Amy, who had helped save the Zephyrian star. Ben, who had flown through hell at his side. Elena, who represented the new generation of humans who had grown up knowing they could accomplish anything. Captain Ross, prepare your ship for an extended mission. You're going to make first contact with our mysterious neighbors. Sir, are you sure that's wise? Amy asked. Maybe we should send a larger fleet. No. One ship, one crew. If these beings are as advanced as we think, a fleet would look like an invasion force. But one ship, coming in peace, asking questions. That's very human. Elena smiled. Thank you for the confidence, sir. We won't let you down. After Elena left, Jake, Amy, and Ben sat in comfortable silence for a while. Finally, Amy spoke. Do you ever think about how different things are now? Every day, Jake said. 10 years ago, we were the species everyone avoided. Now we're the ones they call when they need miracles. It's because we never learned how to give up, Ben said. Everyone else in the galaxy learned to accept limitations. We learned to ignore them. Jake nodded. The funny thing is, we're still the same people we always were. We're still asking too many questions and trying impossible things. The only difference is that now the galaxy appreciates it instead of fearing it. Amy pulled up a news report on her tablet. Look at this. 3 different species have started something called human studies programs at their universities. They're trying to understand how we think so they can solve problems the way we do. What are they learning? That there's no secret formula. We just try things that other people think won't work, and sometimes we're right. Ben laughed. They're studying US to learn how to be more like us. That's either the highest compliment in the galaxy or the strangest joke. Jake stood up and walked back to the window. Outside, he could see representatives from dozens of alien species walking through the streets of Geneva. They came to Earth, now to learn, to seek advice, and to propose joint projects. The planet that had once been an outcast was now the center of galactic civilization. Sir, we're getting a priority transmission from Captain Ross, Jake's assistant announced. The 3 of them gathered around the communication console as Alana's face appeared on the screen. She was clearly excited about something. Mr. President, we've made contact with the builders of the structure. You're not going to believe what we've discovered. Try us, Captain. Sir, they're not from this galaxy at all. They're explorers from another galaxy entirely, and they've been watching us for years. They came here specifically because they heard about humanity. Jake felt his heart skip a beat. They heard about us? Yes, sir. Sir? Apparently, word of our actions, saving the Zephyrian star, curing the Andromedan plague, rebuilding the crystalline homeworld, defeating the Void Seekers, has spread beyond our galaxy. These beings traveled millions of light years just to meet the species that refuses to accept the impossible. Amy sat down heavily. We're famous in other galaxies? More than famous, Ambassador. They want to learn from us. They want to understand how a species can be so determined to help others, even at great cost to themselves. Ben shook his head in amazement. We went from being the most hated species in our galaxy to being celebrities in other galaxies. Elena continued her report. Sir, They're offering to share technology and knowledge with us. They want to establish a permanent cultural exchange. But most importantly, they want to work with humans to explore the space between galaxies. Jake looked at his friends. Intergalactic exploration. Think we're ready for that? Are we ever ready for anything? Amy asked. That's never stopped us before. Captain Ross, tell our new friends that Earth accepts their offer. And ask them if they need any help with whatever they're building out there. Elena grinned. Already asked, sir. They said they were hoping we would offer. Apparently, they have a project that everyone says is impossible, and they thought humans might be interested. After the transmission ended, Jake, Amy, and Ben looked at each other and started laughing. Of course they have an impossible project. Ben said, why would aliens from another galaxy want to work with humans on anything easy? Jake walked back to the window and looked up at the sky. Somewhere out there, beings from another galaxy had built a structure the size of a moon because they wanted to meet the humans who never gave up. In a few weeks, Captain Elena Ross would be leading a joint expedition to attempt something that had never been done before. It was a strange and wonderful feeling, knowing that the traits that had once made humans outcasts were now the reasons why the galaxy, and apparently other galaxies, needed them.